If I go back to 2006, I remember being an entry-level marketing guy. I had a pile of debt, student loans, and a 9-to-5 that just felt like it would never end. Today, I'm 43 and I'm retired.
And I was a teacher working long hours when we saved every penny of my paycheck. We didn't get here by luck. We got here by pivoting when life got messy. We moved states 3 times and raised 4 kids under 8 while the market went through some of the craziest cycles in history.
Today, we're gonna break this down year by year. We want to show you guys how our estimated net worth changed at every major turning point in our lives, and we're going to deep dive into the index strategy that built our foundation. So I started as an assistant account executive. Yeah, that's a really about the least valuable title you could ever have.
But you started somewhere.
Yeah, but that's where I started. So my focus was simple: kill the debt and max out the 401k so I could get out of there. I moved into a project manager role at this tech firm that I started working at after the marketing company. And I worked with a lot of big name companies like Lowe's and Bank of America in particular. And the company that I worked for did an amazing thing, which really probably steered this ship and got things started. But they actually matched our 401k match 100%. And I always had to explain this to people. Like when I told them, they'd be like, oh yeah, it matches 100% up to 5%. And I'm like, nope,
No.
that's not it. I know corporations play that game, but this is like literally they match dollar for dollar. So back in the day, I think you could invest like $15,000 or $16,000 was the max in your 401k. So I literally invested the max in my 401k. So if I put in 15,000, they literally put in 15,000 also.
So when we met, we decided to be radical. We lived on Jared's income and used 100% of my teaching salary to wipe out our student loans and build a 6-month emergency fund. By the time we were married, our net worth finally crossed into the positive for the very first time. We bought our first house on Lake Norman. It was beautiful. It had the dock, the pool, the wraparound deck. It was everything that you could probably, if you wanted it, you could have it. But we were falling into the lifestyle creep trap. Every raise that Jared got, we found something new to buy.
And then came 2014. And this is when we took a trip to Nicaragua. It was our first like mission trip kind of thing that we got involved in. And I think we got a lot more than we bargained for. And I think that, the trip, people always say this with trips like that it will impact you more than the impact you make on the people that are there.
Right.
And I just remember for me in particular, like we went into different, I want to call them ghettos, but I don't know what you'd call it, just like shack towns in a couple of cities in Nicaragua. And it was amazing to see when you get there, like how many people are living like this. It's almost like as far as we could see, we would see like 6x6 shacks that were held up by, it looked like sticks and stuff that people had cut down from trees.
It's literally
maybe just
trash and like tarps and things that they would just find.
Oh, like jagged metal on the sides.
Yeah.
Sometimes they had rusted jagged metal on the top, sheets of plastic. And I remember one of the things was just these like huge spiders that were, some of them were dead, some of them were just like crawling around.
They were like their
yeah,
pets.
they were probably like that big. I don't even know what these things were.
So it's like all of that really struck us hard.
And I think also it wasn't just like this family, but it was what it represented. Like this represents 2 billion people in the world that live in poverty and that go hungry. They don't have access to clean water. And so I think for me, I just saw this little glimpse, but it was enough to just represent all these people and, all across the world that live like that. And then I just kept having flashbacks of like looking at what they had and the water and the shacks that they lived in, and then thinking back to our house and thinking back to like if we had jet skis or boat at the time, I can't remember, but we had like a pool, a dock, everything. And it just felt really unfair. And it just felt like we were living a life of luxury while people are, they don't even have clean water and have all these challenges. And so it just really hit us. Like it was a pivotal moment in our life that we'll never forget, and something that we definitely want to revisit and rekindle with our kids and have our kids go down there and check it out. And anyway, it really impacted our life. And so tell them what happened next.
Yeah, so we came home and we decided to basically sell everything. So we had a boat and then we had sold it, but then we had the jet skis and we sold those. And then we had the lake house and we ended up selling it. So we moved into a modest neighborhood, and then that's when we went into like an aggressive mode. Like full on.
We like the house that we had bought originally lived in on Lake Norman was, I remember it was about $375 or almost $400,000. But then the house that we ended up buying was, I remember thinking back now, like you can't buy anything for this
This
amount.
was in 2014.
Yeah, 2014 money, way before all this inflation. It was $170,000. So we literally went from a $400,000 house to a $170,000 house. And, you know, we really wanted to honor what we had seen and make a difference, make a sacrifice on our end. Okay, so as you can probably tell, maybe by some of the clues we've given you, we were kind of like Dave Ramsey's disciples at this time. We looked at a lot of different places to get our information about FIRE and early retirement, but for some reason we kind of gravitated to Dave Ramsey and listened to a lot of his advice. So one of the things that he talks about is, you know, paying off your mortgage as soon as possible. And so we followed that to a T. And so we were paying, like, I remember definitely paying at least $3,000 extra per month on top of the mortgage payment at our 4% 30-year fixed mortgage. And you know, we did that for at least a couple years, and that was the minimum. So we were adding, saving an extra $3,000 or paying that against the mortgage plus whatever else we had. So if we had bonuses that year, I usually had a couple bonuses a year, I would put all of that against the mortgage. And so we were just paying that thing down so fast. And we eventually got it down to, I just remember the day, like we got it down to $10,000. And I was like, Amber, in a couple months or, you know, 2 or 3 months, we're going to have this thing paid off and then we'll have no more mortgage payment. Something just came up and was like, why are we not investing that money? And I was like, I don't know. I mean, why wouldn't we have just invested that in the S&P 500 that was averaging about 12%, 10 to 12% back then? And it just kind of dawned on us, but like, maybe we should not pay this off and do like a cash out refinance and invest that money instead. Right. And so we just started questioning a lot of things. And we wanted to share an example because I know a lot of people that have commented on our channel have said that they're paying off their mortgage or, you know, they have plans to, and we just wanted to throw out a scenario to you that we would like to have told ourselves when we were younger. But just think about this scenario. If you had invested, let's just say that we paid off our mortgage, we paid off $100,000 towards that. What if we had not done that? What if we had, instead of spending those 2 years just paying that off, what if we had invested that money in the S&P 500 in like the index fund SPY, and we did that for 2 years? Well, that would have actually ended up making us $25,000, $25,440. Which I know that doesn't maybe sound like a whole lot, but
just for 2 years.
For 2 years, that's a pretty good amount of money. Now, on the other hand, what we actually did was we paid off our mortgage that was 4% on that with that $100,000, and that only returned us $8,160. So you can tell right there that it's almost, you would have made 3 times as much if you had just invested that in the S&P 500 index fund. That's good, but then let's just imagine that we did that for 10 years. And a lot of people have 30-year mortgages, so imagine you did that for even longer. What would that look like for you and your net worth and your FIRE journey? So let's say we extended that out for 10 years, and you would have actually made $210,600, let's say, in the S&P 500 if you'd invested that in an index fund. Now, on the other hand, if you had taken Dave Ramsey's advice like us, you would have only made $48,000. So if you had actually invested that in the S&P 500, you would have had 4 times the growth. And that's just for that 10-year period. So, you know, that was something that we were digging into and wanted to make sure that we learned from that. So, okay, tell me the other part.
Yeah, in theory, if you have a 4% mortgage and you can earn 10% in the S&P 500 index fund, you're essentially earning a 6% profit on the bank's money. On paper, it seems foolish to pay off the 4% debt when that same dollar could be making more elsewhere. So the reason many financial coaches, and specifically Dave Ramsey, argue this is against these like several hidden factors, and one being the discipline gap that they call it. Most people don't actually invest the difference. If a mortgage payment is $2,000 and a 15-year payment would have been $2,500, that extra $500 rarely finds its way into a brokerage account. It usually gets absorbed into some kind of lifestyle creep for the person, whether it's dinners out or subscriptions or a nicer car. When the spread is the goal, you're maximizing for wealth. When paying off the house is the goal, you're maximizing for security. So
I think what it really comes down to is like your personal preference and knowing your discipline and knowing maybe your willpower and your determination. If you want to retire really early and you want to make that happen as quickly as you can. I think for us, like we really wanted to take that wealth side, maximizing the wealth. And we know we have the discipline to do it. Like we're not worried about not saving that money. We're not going to blow it on something else just because we were so determined and so focused on our goal. So in our case, we would invest the difference. We know that we would. We have, shown that throughout. So what we ended up doing was we actually did a cash out refinance. So we took that money back out. I think we lowered our interest rate on that mortgage. And then we invested that money into, instead of mutual funds, actually, we decided to get a little more aggressive. And also index fund investing started to get more popular. So we wanted to lower those management costs that come with mutual funds. And we also wanted to have something that was more focused on just the broader market with a lot more diversification and the money that was invested in the popular companies that have done really well for the last 20 years. So people have asked us a lot of questions on our channel. One of them being like, what was your engine? What really got you there to this point of early retirement? And in 2017, we streamlined everything into this particular portfolio, this split, this 50, 25, 25 split. That was really a lot of what got us to this point. And it was super simple, but somehow it ended up working for us. So here's what that looks like in 2026. For large cap core, that would be 50% of our entire portfolio. And that would track the S&P 500. And obviously it's dominated by the Magnificent Seven and the AI powerhouses today. So if you own this, you own the winners, at least for now. The top 10 companies in the S&P 500 as of January, this month, 2026, is Microsoft, Nvidia, Apple, Amazon, Meta, Alphabet or Google, Tesla, Berkshire Hathaway, Broadcom, and JP Morgan Chase.
The next 25% was in mid-cap growth, and mid-caps are the sweet spot. They have more room to grow than those giants, but more stability than those tiny startups. Some examples of the S&P 400 mid-caps would be like InterDigital, Brinker International, which is Chili's, NextPower, MedSpace, Crystal Biotech, Mueller Industries, and Decker's Outdoor.
So a lot of companies that you're probably not as familiar with, but we really like that additional diversification. So here's the other 25%. These are the small cap engine. And this is where there is some volatility here, but there's also more explosive returns. I mean, if you think about it, these huge companies that are multi-trillion dollars, they can only grow so much per year. But some of these smaller companies, they can grow a ton. And maybe they're like the starting off Nvidias or Microsofts when they're younger. So we use for this the Russell 2000, that's what it tracked. And to give you some examples of those companies, they're probably lesser known. Carvana is a pretty popular one that people know. Rocket Lab, MicroStrategy, this is that Bitcoin proxy you've probably heard of. Comfort Systems USA, AST, Space Mobile, EcoStar, Bloom Energy, companies like that.
Okay, so that was like 2017, and then, fast forward, we ended up having, Michaela and then Finnegan. And then that's when we ended up moving to Charleston after we had Finn. And then we built a house during COVID. We ended up having our third child, Guinevere. Then we watched our home value jump like crazy. I remember before we even moved in, the house was worth like 120,000 more, like before we even stepped foot in it.
And we decided we really wanted to despite the fact that there was so much value there, equity, we still wanted to try it out. And like, that's really where we wanted to live. And it's something that we wanted to actually see what happened and move in and give it, 6 months or a year and then just see what happened to the house values and then kind of decide. And we also, with COVID, I think we just wanted a safe place to be.
Yeah.
And we wanted to get the heck out of that apartment where, what was that, like 1,200 square feet or something? I guess it was kind of a big apartment.
It was big, but we were also on like the third floor. We had, a newborn. We also had 2 older dogs.
We then kind of panicked. We thought we needed, I think with all of that going on, we kind of hit a point where we were like, we just felt isolated. And I think it was partially because of COVID and we were isolated then. And it just kind of had a lasting effect on us. And we felt like we didn't have the support in South Carolina that we wanted. And so we decided I think it was that. And then also like the house had gone up so much more. Yeah. It had gone up about $300,000 by this time.
That was 8 months.
8 months?
8 months.
In that period of time. And we were like, man, us having this goal of early retirement, we were like, this would be pretty sweet if we could just sell this house, have that get us to our retirement number, and then I could quit my job and move on and move back to family. We had some thoughts as to how we were going to do that. We thought we would build a house actually.
Like a barn dough.
Long story short, Amber got pregnant with Sullivan, our 4th child, and I also just was feeling at the time like maybe our savings was a little light, and I knew we had to buy a house, or we were planning to. And then so I decided to get a job at Lowe's corporate office. I had a good friend that had recommended that to me, and he said it was going really well. He had a good in that area, and so I looked into that and decided to go back to work. So I actually retired when I was 38, and then I went back to a 9-to-5 job a couple years later, which seems kind of crazy, but it just felt right at the time to have that stability for Sullivan coming in and for us building that. So needless to say, the building costs like tripled. I mean, it was way beyond what we had thought. We thought we could go in there on land that we actually inherited from Amber's parents that was right next door to their house. And we thought we could go in and build something for like $200,000 or $300,000. And come to find out, we spent months going through this process trying to scope it out and get the land transferred to our name, and ended up costing
almost like $500,000.
I think it might have been over $500,000.
Yeah. So we sold the North Carolina house for a small profit, very different than the previous profit that we had. And we moved back to South Carolina in 2024. And during this messy middle, we did stay invested. We didn't stop doing what we were doing. It was just everything. It sounds like a crazy story, and it probably is, but it's a good story. Yeah. Even with all those moves, and that we had that 50-25-25 strategy that you talked about earlier, it was compounding in the background, which is again what we talked about even before with the mortgage. Over those years, compounding works to your best interest, and it will fly you to the moon if you want to.
Yeah, and I think something else that's worth mentioning is when the stock market was bad, or I think we had a couple bear markets, at least 2 or 3 during that time. This is what a lot of people tell us that they're doing. All of a sudden I'll start getting phone calls when we're in a bear market, like in 2022, for example. And people will say, "Hey, Jared, what are you guys doing with your investments right now? Are you pulling back? Are you not investing as much?" And then I usually say, "No, we're actually doing the opposite. We're investing more." When things are bad and the stock market's down 20, 30, 40%, that's the time when we go in hard and aggressive. And that's when most people get it wrong. They do the opposite. They start investing less, they start contributing less during that time, which is the exact wrong thing to do. And so that's what we've done through that time. We did the opposite. So when things are rough, we invest more. When things are good, we usually consider taking some profits off the table and taking our wins. Mm-hmm. So after we sold our house in North Carolina, we moved back to South Carolina. I still had the job at Lowe's, and it originally started as like a very remote position. So when we decided to move back to South Carolina, I kind of knew that was going to be the end for that job for me. But I did actually travel back and forth from Charleston to Charlotte for several months. I mean, that's like a 3-hour drive to work.
By yourself?
Yeah, 3 to 4 hour drive depending on traffic. I held on to that as long as I could, and then I just reached a point where, there was that, and then I wanted to retire early, and I was also trying to hit that fire goal and the fire number. And so once I got to the point where all those things kind of converged, and I decided to retire from that position at Lowe's. So the cool thing there is that once I did that, I was able to roll my 401k into a traditional and Roth IRA. I was also able to do that with the previous position. But the cool thing there is that once it's in an IRA, you're not just limited to that handful of mutual funds that they usually give you, or you could buy stock in that company. And I did actually buy a lot of stock in Lowe's. So during that time, I maxed out my contributions to 401k, as I've done my whole life. Right. And then also maxed out the stock purchase program. I think whatever the maximum was, I mean, it was crazy.
You also got a percentage off.
Oh, that's true. It was a 10% discount on Lowe's stock. So I maxed that out, maxed out the 401k. I mean, I think we were saving for those 2.5 years, 60% of that income right off the top, like automatically. So that was just amazing for our portfolio. And then we had our money, a lot of it was invested in these 50 individual companies, which we're going to do a future video to explain. I know a lot of people have asked, like, how do we pick the companies? Why do we pick certain ones? How do we know when to get in, when to get out, sort of thing. So we're going to share that. But really, for the whole time that I was at Lowe's, we had our money invested in those 50 or so individual companies. and we virtually didn't look at them. I mean, I might look at that like once a month and make some adjustments here and there, but for the most part, they were just sitting there growing, and they were companies like before Palantir was possible. That was one of them. NVIDIA. I mean, companies that just had explosive growth. And I remember, I think we had like $20,000 invested in NVIDIA, and that turned into about $120,000 during that time. I mean, it's just insane. I wish we had put more in.
I know. Going back, tell your oldest.
Palantir, it was amazing, the return that we had on those individual companies. So we definitely want to share that in a future video so you guys can hear all about how we did that and how we're going to do something similar in the future.
Yeah. We crossed 1.6 million with our 4 kids. We aren't multi-millionaires from a tech exit. We're a family that stayed consistent for those 20 years, even when we had to change the map a little bit.
And as you can tell, we did
all over
moved a ridiculous amount of
times. But luckily it was just between 2 states. Somehow. It wasn't
heavy in North and South Carolina. But like I said, if you guys want more information about the stocks that we picked and some more details about how we invested our money in that strategy, we're going to do a future video on that, so you can see more about the inner workings of how we do things. So please check out our next video, subscribe to our channel, and look out for those notifications so you guys don't miss anything. Thank you guys so much for subscribing, for watching, for giving us a thumbs up,
for supporting, for commenting.
Yes, and thank you so much for watching our videos. It's so fun to watch these views skyrocket. Especially the video we did recently where we have like 100,000 views. I can't even believe that we've had 100,000
people want to
views.
sit and watch us, but
I know.
Here we are.
So thank you so much. We really appreciate you guys.
We'll see you later.
Bye, guys.
Sully's in here. Smile. Here it comes. Watch out.